Hi, good morning everyone. Welcome to the session. Yes, good morning, Ipsita. Yeah, good morning, Shravani. Good morning. Yep, we will start. Let me log into my account. Yes, in last class we have been talking about VPC peering and transit gateways, right? When you have multiple VPCs, I'm in London. Let us change to Mumbai region. We have created these VPCs. VPC B, C, and have created subnets, and we talked about peering connection, deleted it, and we know how it works. Let us have a quick recap. Yeah, transit gateway, yes. And are you guys doing labs? Any doubts, guys? Are you able to do the topics which we are discussing in the class? Yes, okay. Others? Shravani, yes. And Lakshmi, are you doing labs? Okay. Let's open this mind map. Mm, Coming to gateways. Gateways of VPC within the VPC. Gateways means they provide um, gateway, right? They allow traffic to go, let in or let out. So these gateways are of different kinds in AWS, right? Coming to networking gateways, yes. We in the VPC we have a internet gateway, and then address only internet gateway. Internet gateway provides access to public internet for uh, communication on internet. Egress and ingress both. Yes, egress only internet gateway is only allows egress traffic. That means communicates on internet, aggress traffic only. That means it lets to traffic go outside. Instances when you create within the VPCs with aggress only internet gateway, they can send anything, but no inbound traffic. and NAT gateway. And this provide internet communication for so allows private we say allows private EC2 to connect internet. That is NAT gateway. And here we talked about one more thing called as NAT instance. And your NAT gateway has to be always launched in public subnet. And private subnet route table should have NAT entry, right? Should have NAT entry. That's how you configure NAT gateway. And we also talked about NAT instance. NAT instance is nothing but EC2 with the NATing software already pre-installed in it, and we have certain EMIs with have that NATing pre-installed. So while using NAT instances, procedure is same. You have to launch the NAT instance in public subnet, and in private subnet route table, you have to add the NAT instance. And the two more steps which we have to take while launching adding the NAT instances, disable the source destination check. That is one thing. And also NAT instance security group should have a rule to allow the traffic from private subnet, right? So NAT instance, you should disable source destination check. That is one thing. And second thing is security group should have a inbound rule to accept traffic or to allow traffic from private subnet. That is NAT instance. So these are all the ways we options we have to configure uh, the internet connections. Either you can directly connect to internet. This is VPC level, whereas NAT gateways work within the subnets, public subnets, private subnets. And in last class, we talked about peering connection. Peering connection also provides you a kind of a gateway into other VPCs. So let's say gateways or connections. Peering connection and how you create a peering connection. Acceptor has to, sorry, requester has to create a connection and send request. Acceptor should accept. And these peering connections can be between the VPCs that are in the same region or different regions or different accounts also. So based on which VPC you are choosing, details will be there. If it is an another account, you have to provide the other account ID. So if it is other region, then you will give the region ID and then a VPC. So after establishing a peering connection, you create a peering connection, accept, and then update route tables of VPCs with peering, right, connection. Peering connection means you let traffic from VPC A to VPC B by adding that peering connection in the route table. So that's it, simple. And then we talked about transit gateways. Transit gateways are like network hubs. They are network hubs. How you work with transit gateways is first we create a transit gateway and add attachments. That's it. And also you should update route table of VPCs with transit gateway. And the here in the transit gateway is its network hub, whereas peering connection is peering between two VPCs. So if suppose a VPC A, if it want to connect with four VPCs or 10 VPCs, then you have to create a peering connection from A to all other 9 VPCs, and then only it works. Whereas transit gateway, you add attachment. You have to attach all the VPCs to the transit gateway. It is a network hub, and this transit through this transit gateway, all the VPCs can communicate with each other. That is transit gateway. And we have transit gateway route table like we have for VPC. For transit gateway, there is a route table, and you can also create a peering connection between two transit gateways. Transit peering is also there. Peering. And then you can bring VPN connection, side to side VPN connection with the transit gateways, which we will talk about. You can bring VPCs, VPNs, and transit peering in the transit gateways. VPCs we already know. We have done a hands-on also. You can add VPC attachments. And we also talked about network access control lists. Network access control lists, they are subnet level firewall, we can say. If you add any rule, any change uh, related to protocol, if you make that in NACL, it applies to entire subnet level firewall. Yes, we have talked about these things. Let us go to our AWS console now. And we have something called as VPN. VPN, virtual private network. And we have a customer gateway here, virtual private gateway, which is used again gateway. We one more gateway for VPN networks. That is virtual private gateway. These are virtual private gateways for VPN networks. For VPN, what is this VPN? VPN is nothing but connection over the internet, a private network over the internet. We call it as tunnel, setting a network tunnel from one site to another site. So we are using all the service that is there on the cloud. You can launch EC2 instances, storage, databases, etc. And we are accessing all these services using public internet. And if your organization is particular about privacy, and they don't want to use the public internet, so then you can set up virtual private network. Virtual private network, again, it uses internet only, but it creates a tunnel which is private, a virtual private network. That's why it's a VPN. And other outside internet cannot connect to use this VPN. So the you are using some tunnel or channel over the internet. It's called as VPN, and you set this VPN, your organization, and the client devices within your organization. You join them to the VPN, and your organization network, AWS data center. These two can communicate within the VPN, whereas other internet cannot use this tunnel. It is private tunnel. Still, it's working on internet, but it's a private network. That is VPN, virtual private network. And for this, we need to install something called as VPN client, and we are not doing a hands-on on it, but it's good to know about the VPN. And it becomes we can try, but it becomes too much into the networking. Yes, so that is VPN. And VPN site-to-site connections, as I said. Customers, if we say our organization has our own data center, and we also want a cloud support for have that extra storage and services offered by the cloud. So our data center has to communicate with the cloud. Then site to site VPN connection. Then site and the data center, you set a VPN connection. That is site to site VPN connection. And a virtual private gateway. So this is a virtual private network. Like in internet, we have an internet gateway, and to allow traffic into this VPN, we have virtual private gateways and client VPN endpoints. So which clients should communicate in this VPN? So you have to add those clients. Create a client VPN endpoint. Say it asks all these things. IPv4 CIDR. So suppose our organization is setting a VPN connection, they will add all their employees, right? EC2 instances, or their IPv4s, not only EC2, so if it's site to site. Your organization will be having one network. So IPv4s of their devices. So only registered clients, only clients which has VPN endpoints can communicate in this private network. That is VPN. And in transit gateways, if you go to transit gateway, not this transit gateway attachment, we have first, third. See, attachment type. You can bring in VPCs, VPNs, peering connections, and direct connects. The direct connects means VPN is a private network. Again, it works on public internet, but a channel which is private, a tunnel which is private, and it works on IP protocol, based on IP protocol. It's a private network, and we already discussed this. And we have something called as direct connect again. This direct connect we have here. Say direct connect. Dedicated network connection to AWS. That means laying cables from your side to AWS, laying physical cables. See how it works. Decide on an AWS direct connect location and connect size, and create a connection on AWS Management Console, and download the LOA, authorization letter, and then you will get a you can lay a physical cable from your premises, from your site to AWS data center, and creating AWS the connection, direct connect. That means you are requesting AWS to provide a direct connection. Classic or connection with two types are there. So give a name, location. See, all these locations are supported by AWS. That means AWS can provide a direct connect if you are if you want a direct connect in one of these locations. So if you were a data center, or if your site is somewhere in remote location and it is not part of this list, then you can request any other internet service provider, a third party internet service provider, and lay those cables to AWS data center. And let's look into this list. So we all have this. Let's see. Mumbai is there, Hyderabad is there, Chennai, all these major cities are there. Let's say Hyderabad. And what is the port speed? 1 GB or 10 GB? Let us keep it as 1 GB. Let's say demo connection. Anyway, we are not launching it. Service provider. Of course, Tata Communications are there, which they lay their connections. Tata Communications, they have tie up with AWS, and they will provide you that physical connection from your side to AWS. That is direct connect. And if you want in any other location which is not part of the list, then you have to contact AWS support center. So that is AWS direct connect. And you can also bring these direct connections in the transit gateway. Going back to VPC. And you can set a firewall, AWS network firewall, traffic mirroring, and we have something called as reachability analyzer here. It's like a network diagnostic tool. Suppose if you have a complex network, especially so many VPCs are there, NAT gateways, transit gateways, VPNs, you have all these. If something is not working, it's a and you are not able to figure it out. So where you went wrong, because you have to update route tables, security groups, all these things. In such scenarios, you can use this reachability analyzer. Like in Windows OS on our laptops, we have a network diagnostic tool, like on the private cloud on AWS. We are using private network, and this reachability analyzer is network diagnostic tool for that network, private network, which we have set up on the cloud. Say create and analyze path. Say demo, analyze, source type, transit gateway, VPN. Let's say instance. Let me check the instance or VPC endpoints. VPC peering connections. Let's say VPC peering connections, because we have three VPCs. Source, no endpoints found. Let's say transit gateway then. I have a transit gateway. Say now there is says something, some issue with transit gateway. I am not getting the expected outcome is all the attachments that I have added to the transit gateway should connect with each other. If something is not working, you can go and analyze the path here, destination path, is the transit gateway. Again, destination is also the same. If you have another transit gateway, we can give that. Port number, let's say port number 80. You can give any number, let's say 8000. Protocol, and this is a network protocol. Let us keep it as TCP. Create and analyze the path. Source and destination cannot be the same. Then source type instance. We have two instances, but we have to start them. EC2, two instances are running. Yes, they are running, and we need their address. Public instance. This is source and the instance here, and this is destination. Anyway, IP address is optional. Destination port. Let us check via port number 80. It's a TCP port, right? Okay, we will come back to this. It takes some time. Succeeded. Reachability status is not reachable. Why? The source of the query VPC, the destination of the query is in VPC. Because VPCs do not have a peering connection, no path is possible. Okay. And let us add transit gateway. I have attached first and third, but not the second VPC. My EC2 instances, or which I have done this test through reachability analyzer, they have a transit gateway. VPCs have transit gateway, but I have not attached one more VPC here. So let's create transit gateway attachment. Say transit gateway attachment type VPC tag second. I think we have to attach VPC-B. We have attached VPC A and C. Now this is B. So now once the state is available, we will go and check the reachability analyzer. Now it will not say, it will say, it will not show this. So not reachable. Why? Because peering is not there. Now I have added one more transit attachment, and if I test this, since I have a transit attachment, I should not get this one. Reachable status is not reachable. Let's go and check transit attachment. It's available. Now I think we have updated the route tables also. Route table of VPCA, all other three are there. All other remaining two are there. And VPCB and VPCC. Yeah, VPCC doesn't have. So let us edit routes and add other two also. Transit gateway. Done. Save changes. Hmm, now let's go. Say analyze path. Confirm. It still says that these VPCs do not have peering connection. No path is possible, but actually it takes some time. Just we have added transit. It will take some time. And also we should update the route tables. Sorry, not route tables, security groups of EC2 instances. Right, I have this instance security. Also edit the security group with the to allow the traffic from the other VPCs. Okay, that's about transit gateway reachability analyzer. And coming to EC2 instances, we don't need these instances now. So I'll terminate them. Go back to VPC. Subnets. Okay. We have EC2 instances. Once they are completely deleted, maybe they are in the process, you will be able to create subnet. How you can delete your VPC? First, the EC2 instances which are there in the subnets, you have to delete them first, terminate them, and come back to delete the subnet and then delete the VPC. And transit gateways. First, you have to delete the attachment. And this one. Delete, after delete is successful, go and delete transit gateway. And that's about VPC, guys. Any doubts? And still we have to talk about endpoint services. We will come back to this because endpoints means two services, any two services within the AWS storage, say for example EC2. If they want to, if you want to access storage from your EC2 through AWS private link, not through public internet. So AWS has a private link. All the regions, all the availability zones, uh, all the AWS data centers, in short, are connected through a private link. Without using internet, yes, if you have your EC2 instance and if you have your database, both are in AWS, they both can communicate, exchange data without using public internet. So for that we need endpoints. So these endpoints. So we will come back to these endpoints. We will talk about one more service, S3. Go to services. Let me check transit gateway attachments. Deleted. I'll delete transit gateway. And under services, you can see under compute we have talked about EC2. And coming to VPC, VPC will be under networking and content delivery. VPC. Now we are talking about storage. S3. S3 is simple storage service. That's why it's called as S3. And it is object storage. We have object storage in other clouds also, like Azure. Azure call it as blob storage. And all these are my S3 buckets have created so far. And how these S3 works is it can store any kind of data. It's not a database, it's storage. It just provides storage. You can store documents, videos, audios. That is simply any data. That's why it's called as object storage. Object storage means everything you store in S3, it's treated as an object. These object storage solutions, they don't know about the file system. So what is file system means? A kind of a file. See, word is a kind of a file, text is a kind of a file, and then if there are media files, you will have it's a mpv4 mp3 file, .csv files. So all these are files, different types of files. When you want to open this file, your underlying operating system should know which application has to be used. All the files cannot be opened in the same way. If you want to open mpv4 file, you need a media player, whereas to open a word document, you need a or text document, you need a text editor or Microsoft Word, right? Yes, so that kind of detecting a file system is not there in S3. S3 is an object storage solution. It treats everything as an object. However, if it is an image file, yes, you can access it on S3 directly from the S3 dot image files. Because they are pixels. When you request for it, it will show it. You can see that. And also text, plain text can also be you can open on S3. You cannot open and view any other file on S3. Only you have to download and access it, except text and image. All other files, suppose .csv is there, Excel format is there, or any other format file is there, you cannot open it on S3 or on an object storage. You only can download. So that is a brief introduction about S3. Coming to S3, it's a global storage. Yes, it's object storage and it is global storage. And we have three kinds of storages offered by AWS. If I go to services under storage, I have S3, EFS, FSX, and these two also again belong to S3 and AWS backup. So all these are there in storage. Let us understand different types of storage. Let me open this presentation. Yeah, storage services on AWS. We have different kinds of storage solutions. So we are not talking about databases here. Databases are stores data items which are relatable to each other. We are talking about other storages. S3 is one. We have Glacier again for it's a S3 storage solution. That means object kind of a storage solution with which archives data, stores very long time. And CloudFront is there. Actually, it is a storage, but you will not put any data items in CloudFront. Like how if you want to store any data, it can be image files or any media files, you can go and upload them into your storage S3. You will have it them have until you delete, you will have on your S3. But CloudFront is not that one. It's a content delivery network. A storage attached with the content delivery network. We will talk about it later anyway. EBS, Elastic Block Store, and we already know about it. It's like a hard drive kind of SSD hardware. We have general purpose SSD, magnetic storage. We have chosen SSD. It's a SSD kind of a hardware which is accessed via EC2s. Without EC2s, you cannot access EBS. Suppose you have a data in EBS, you cannot open it directly or you cannot download it directly. You don't have access to it at all. You have access to the data within your EBS storage only when there is EC2 instance attached to the EBS. That's why we don't have this EBS under storage, because it's not an independent storage solution. It's like your hard drive, and when you can access data from your hard drive only when connected to computer. That is EBS. And we have storage gateway. We talked about transit gateway, right? Like that, there will be a storage gateway, and from your network to AWS storage, you can set a gateway, that is storage gateway. Snow family. Family means it's also an S3, a kind of a storage. But when you have huge data, your organization used to have its own data center. It has its own storage solution. It used to maintain storage rack, array of storage devices is a storage array, right? Storage racks. And then now they want to switch everything to cloud, and the data is huge, and uploading everything to S3 via public internet is time consuming, as well as they may feel it's not a so secured one. And then you can make a call to AWS. They'll come in person or will send you a device, and you can uh, transfer all your data to that device, or they'll come in person with their hardware, and they will transfer all the contents into that hardware, and they will go back to AWS and set securely in somewhere AWS rack, so that you can access them remotely. Those are storage services. And the AWS storage solutions, EBS, this one we already talked about it, and you can access this EBS storage solution only when you have EC2 instance attached to it. And then we have another storage solution called as EFS, Elastic File System. In this elastic file system, this is a file system. Here you can open the various files, Word documents, .csv files. It's like a file system in we have in our laptop. We have a folders, different kinds of files, right? Same kind of a file system, but and it is elastic in nature. We know you can increase the size and decrease the size. And this is network attached solution, meaning if I have 10 EC2 instances within the same VPC, then I can share this file system among those 10 EC2 instances. All these 10 EC2 instances will use one file system. The elastic file system supports that. It is network attached storage solution. Devices within the network can use that storage solution, whereas EBS is local storage solution, EFS is network attached storage solution, NAS or SAN we say. NAS means network attached storage. EFS is NAS solution. And we have global storage solution, which is S3. And if using internet connection, and from anywhere in the world you can access S3 data objects. And the kind of how it stores, it uses blocks, EBS, whereas EFS uses files, and S3 stores treats data in terms of objects. And that is a brief introduction about different types of storage this cloud is offering us. See, block, this is magnetic storage. So if you look back, long back, before we have these laptops are there at then, but most of the people used to have these desktops, and we used to have these kind of disks in our CPUs. So they are actually disk which rotates, and they are magnetic disks. When they rotate, they are actually reading or writing the data. And now we have SSD solutions. We are not using magnetic solutions. So these are related to EBS, and this is EFS, like a file system which we are seeing, the EFS and the object. We already talked about it. And usually people use all three: EFS, EBS, and S3. Let us talk about S3. S3, it is a AWS managed storage solution, and a lot of people use AWS for S3. It's very famous, and you can store huge data on S3. Like if you have an S3 bucket, you'll get the maximum limit will be in some petabytes. And how you create a storage solution in S3 is the terminology is bucket. They call it as S3 bucket. Create a S3 bucket, upload data into it. Let us go and create one S3 bucket. Here only. Create bucket, bucket name, and this bucket name has to be DNS compliant, because you have an option of accessing this bucket globally via internet from anywhere. If you have a internet connection, you can access data objects that you have in this bucket. So the name of the bucket has to be DNS compliant and unique. It has to be unique name. It, any unique name. My S3 demo dot bucket. Seems like the name is there. Otherwise, it will say that name is not there. Try with another one. And region is Mumbai. So one more thing you have to observe here. I am creating this S3 bucket in Mumbai, but if you see here, all the regions are disabled. S3 does not require region selection. It's not region specific. It is global. If you have 5 S3 buckets in your AWS console, it doesn't matter if you are operating your console from Mumbai region or from London region or any other region, you can see those all S3 buckets. But when creating your S3 bucket, physically it has to be somewhere. You are choosing that region. You know that your S3 bucket is in Mumbai, but actually region doesn't apply. Suppose if you take EC2 instance, if you have launched an EC2 instance and switch to another region, you cannot see EC2 instance in that region. And EC2 related services like Elastic Load Balancer, auto scaling also works in the same way. When you switch to another region, they are new. Again, a new set of services you can create there. And same with VPC. If you create VPC in Mumbai region, that VPC has some limitations. That VPC is valid for that Mumbai region only. But that is not the case with S3. So S3, it's physically available in Mumbai, but it is global. It's a global service. So region selection is not required for S3. Clear, guys? But it's physically present in Mumbai. And then I am keeping everything as default. We will talk about properties, permissions, and management of S3 one by one. So create bucket. I have just given a name. Yeah, my S3 demo dot bucket. And here, let me go back. I can copy ARN of my bucket, Amazon resource name. For all the services which you create, there will be Amazon resource name. You can copy. It is helpful when you are applying any policies. Suppose your application has to write data into S3 bucket. In such scenarios, it may ask ARN of the resource. Then you will get ARN here. You can copy ARN of this bucket from here. And let's go to bucket. Objects are nothing but the items which you upload here. Then to manage this bucket, these are properties, permissions, management, and we also have metrics. Metrics is nothing but a kind of monitoring total number of objects, total bucket size, and we have access points. So we will talk about them one by one. Let us start with properties. First, let us upload one object. Upload, add files. If you want to add folder, you can do that. Add files. Let us add any picture. Close this and let's download any picture. And add files. Upload. However, if I try to open this or access this, let me click on this. I have an object URL. That's what we are talking about. You can now access data globally using this URL. Let us copy. It says access denied. Let's go back. Why? Because my bucket is not allowing public access under permissions. Block all public access is on. Let us make it off. Save changes. Confirm. Yes, and also I will have bucket level permissions and object level permissions. At bucket level, I have disabled blocking. Now it has a public access. Coming to object, I should also make this public object level permission. So again, this object has S3 URI URL, of course, from which this is a URL of the object. And then let's go to actions and make object public. Make public, right? And I can copy the URL from here or go and copy object URL from here. If you see this URL, it has region where I have created the bucket AP South -1 anyway, and then bucket name, and last is the object name. Let us copy this. Right, we got the image. Text documents also you can open, but other any file format will get downloaded. Let's go and upload any other file. Upload, add files. So there is some PDF format, .pdf. Upload, and then click on this. We have this. Go back and make it as public. Like public. Since it's PDF, we don't know it gets open or download. So other files, if it is Word or any CSV, it will not. So actually it's opening up. PDF also you can open. PDF, text and images will get open, and other files will get downloaded. Because PDF we have an option of opening on browser, right? Otherwise it gets downloaded. Let us upload a other one. So .csv file. Upload, and then make it as public. So it will get downloaded. Okay, that is about S3. And coming to properties, I have bucket versioning, tags, all these things. Let us talk about properties. We will explore S3, and S3 is one service. You can stream. If you have data in S3, you can stream data to your analytical platforms. It's globally available storage, and a lot of people are using it, and it's very popular and also cheap comparatively. Cheap means again, it depends upon the tier which you are choosing. simple storage solution. Say users of S3 or say companies. S3. See, the all thing, the famous web applications which we know, Aaron, Airbnb, Netflix, Pinterest, Spotify, Amazon itself, Udemy, Reddit. So lot of. So these are some known, and S3 is very popular, and because of its uh, it's globally available first thing, and it is highly available, redundant as well. They say that AWS is giving assurance. S3 is 99.99 some 99% uh, available. They are giving that much assurance. It's always available and redundant. You can have your data in multiple availability zones. And also you can create a replica of your bucket and store data like a backup in another region, and you can stream this data with to not stream and connect this data with almost all the services that we have on S3. It can be EC2, or it can be a stream engine, or it can be a machine learning platform, or it can be any other. S3 is compatible with almost all the services that are there in this dashboard. It might be a content delivery network or a EC2 instance or any analytical, something like SageMaker. So S3 is one storage solution. It's compatible. It's a source for many services. And also the maximum limit is some petabytes. You can store petabytes of data in each bucket. Right, and coming to S3 limits, go check. Always best practice when you are working with a service is to check its free tier limits. Then you can create bucket or work with that service within the limits. I think you can have 5 GB of data within the free tier in S3, and then it also calculates the put requests, the put and get requests that you are making. So if there is a data object in S3, you will pay for it. We know how frequent you are accessing, how many requests are coming to the bucket. For there is a limit for that also. So go and check free tier limits of S3, and we will explore more about S3 in tomorrow class. Okay, guys, see you tomorrow. Have a good day, everyone. Bye bye.